All right, Matt. How's your new year going?
Wait, has it started? Are we gonna lie to people?
Yeah, we're totally lying to people.
Oh,
This is
okay.
this is some day that is
Fantastic.
after January 1st.
It's been fantastic. What'd you do on New Year's?
Just kind of chillaxed, kept it easy. We didn't want to hire a babysitter, so we just, did, home stuff.
Yeah, we're boring. We're boring parents now.
Uh, yeah, it's actually December 30th still.
3 p.m. We have
3:09
okay.
actually.
Sorry, we have more
Yeah,
than
you know
24
what?
hours
This
to
this
do.
this whole recording out of the library situation has been pretty nice. I've definitely got to give the Vancouver Library some props here. They've got the recording space that I'm in right now, which allows my wife to take custody of our child, but also since he's napping, she can just draw at home right now while making sure he stays asleep.
Very nice. Kudos. I
Uh,
don't think I've been in the recording studio. I did go to the library regularly just to work, like especially when we were working on the game.
yeah.
Nice spot, but uh, yeah, I'm not familiar with the recording studio.
I never made much use out of libraries unless I was doing a research paper. So
Mm.
um, I've come to appreciate it now that I need the space to get to now and then. And I was looking around at posters. You can actually check out like violins and guitars and ukuleles and stuff too. So
Wow.
Vancouver Library's got it going on.
Nice, nice. Do they have a good movie collection? I know that the
Yeah, they do.
yeah, yeah. Here in Washington, there's like one big library system for King County, which is where Seattle and like Redmond and a few other places are, and it's supposedly the biggest library by circulation in America. So I have noticed their movie selection is excellent, excellent. That's where I get pretty much all my watches in.
Yeah, you know what? We gave up on Netflix a while ago, and in Canada you can actually rent stuff, of course from YouTube, but also directly from Cineplex Odeon.
Okay.
So we have done that on occasion, but yeah, we totally check out movies from here too, and we watched. I can't even remember which ones we've watched, but yeah, we can get stuff out on our kids' library card. So if for some reason we were to lose the disc or it would get damaged, we don't have to worry about it.
Seriously?
Yeah.
What happens? Like the kid is responsible, but since they're a kid, the library just kind of goes, or what?
Yeah, basically, like, because with a toddler, it's kind of expected that any board books and stuff you get, they're gonna chew on it and rip pages and stuff. So yeah,
Right.
they've got carte blanche to do whatever they want.
For real? Even for
Yeah.
DVDs and stuff? I would have thought they'd be like, parents, come on,
Well,
take care of
there's
this
there's
disc.
obviously if you're gonna rent Game of Thrones from them, you're not gonna be able to do it on
Yeah.
their card. But where
So the
where we tend
kids'
to get stuff
films.
like Mighty,
Yeah,
like
okay.
not Mighty Number Nine, what Big Hero 6.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Got it. Got it.
Yeah, so
Cool.
that worked good. How's your gaming year been?
My game. Ooh. Hold on. So 2016?
Yeah, 2000. Yeah, unless you want to go super way back to like 2015, but
I really could because 16 was kind of a drought for me. I mean, it was pretty bad. Not a lot of time. I mean, I could attribute that to having a kid and whatever else, but a lot of the games I did beat this year were just little short one-offs. It would be like people would come over and it'd be like, "Man, let's play whatever," and then we'd beat it in the one night, and it was
yeah,
nice. But no RPGs, no big long, whatever X tens of hours games under my belt this year, unfortunately.
yeah,
This might actually be my worst year ever, honestly.
really,
Really, worst year ever, which is why I think I mentioned at some point previously I'm looking at taking measures to play more games this year instead of just assuming it'll happen because I mean, here I am doing a podcast about video games, and I don't play video games, so
yeah.
it's. I mean, that's not the only motivating factor, but certainly it's an aspect of my life I hugely miss.
Mm.
That said, what gaming I did do was a lot of fun. So, how about you?
I've actually got a little bit of a record here for years gone by. So when you say that last year was your worst year, my worst year was 2014.
Hmm.
And in that year, I played DayZ, I played the Tomb Raider that was current. I played Portal, and I played an insane number of hours of Guild Wars and Guild Wars 2.
Was that the year that your son was born?
Yeah.
Was that relevant to your lack of gaming?
Partially yes, because so we my wife became pregnant, and then I also spent a few months in Scotland that year.
Right.
So I spent zero time playing games while I was in Scotland. I spent time like gallivanting about the countryside. And then obviously when I came back and we had to deal with pregnancy and birth, there was a lot less hours done that year for gaming.
Yeah.
So in total I played 5 different games that year.
Right.
Whereas this year, I've been making more of a concerted effort to get through my backlog, and
right.
so
that's what it takes. That's really
yeah.
what it takes. That's kind of like looking onward to 2017 for myself. That's what I'm thinking is I'm just going to make that effort because I feel like I'll enjoy it very much having done so.
Yeah, and you know this was the first year since college that I've actually sat down and made like a general to-do list of things to accomplish. It made a lot of sense back in college because it's like I had so many projects and classes and stuff to get to and work that if I didn't organize it, I'd just get lost. So then I kind of finally got around to doing the same approach this year and like for all of my hobbies, like if I wanted to be doing Japanese stuff or if I wanted to be doing game dev stuff or if I wanted to take my employer to court, which sort of happened. So, you know, for everything that I wanted to do, selling stuff on Craigslist, I had a huge itemized list that I would constantly be adding to and prioritizing, and I made sure to prioritize games on there as well. So if I had some chores to do that could be put off, I would be playing a game. And it worked a little bit well for me at the beginning of the year because Andrea was not working at the beginning of the year, so we were co-sleeping, so she would go to bed with Laz, and I would have a couple hours at night every night that I could study Japanese or study C++ or whatever. So I did get windows of time set aside specifically for myself.
Right.
So
that's what you had that I didn't, which
Yeah.
is not to say, I mean, like what would happen is our daughter would just go right to sleep, which is great.
Yeah.
And then it's like me and my wife, it's like finally we have our time. So
Yeah.
where your wife goes to bed with the kid, you're alone. It's like, well, I'll play games.
Yeah.
I'm not complaining. It was nice spending a lot of time with my wife, but I just never really had that game time per se.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, this year I'm still going to cherish that family time, but I'm looking at, you know, getting up early or whatever else, playing games at lunch, kind of what you had been doing previously, that kind of thing.
Well, the thing with that is that like when that it was literally just that, like she was co-sleeping and she was stay-at-home mom, we did still have hours every day that we could spend together.
Right.
Where it got really hard was later on in the year when she started working again, and we had to offset our schedules in order to deal with daycare. And again, at first, I had that ability where I would come home a little bit later, and she would be going to bed shortly after that, and then I would have a window of time. And then later in the year, we switched stuff up. And I was the one getting up early, and then I would just be exhausted at night, and I would go to bed at 9, and my spare time completely evaporated.
Yeah.
And you know what? That was actually quite difficult because the amount of time that we spent together diminished greatly.
Yeah. You're living separate lives, kind of, right?
Kind of.
For like, yeah.
Kind of. And like we each got to spend some time with our kid every day because one of us would have the morning and one of us would have the evening. And so it was definitely good for having a bond with our kid and taking him out to the park and stuff. But yeah, we spent very little time with each other while we were both working.
Right.
And that was actually not fun.
Right.
So
is that something that, if I may interject, is that something that would affect your? I hope this isn't too personal a question.
No.
Excuse me. I hope this is not too personal a question. I mean, and I understand Andrea's not currently working.
Right.
Like for her, I imagine she would, of course, like to work sometime again. But then you would face the same problem unless your son is at that point 6, 7, 8, however old, right? Like, is that something that's affecting her career path, or maybe even your own?
Definitely. It's having a kid definitely impacts your career path. Like the ability to stay late and do overtime and get better at projects and stuff, to get promotions and stuff like that, definitely diminishes once you've got the responsibility of someone else that legally cannot be left by themselves. So I don't know. Maybe once we've got the ability to take him to a daycare, and we'll have different hours and stuff. Like Vancouver was expensive. Like we were paying $18 an hour for daycare, so we didn't want to pay more than 40 hours a week. Like we were offsetting our schedule so that we had to pay for as little hours as possible.
Right.
If we're in Montreal and it's $18 a day.
Maybe a little bit of a different situation.
Yeah, like maybe we can afford to have someone come in for an hour in the morning or evening or something to help alleviate that and make the career a little bit easier.
Right.
And certainly as he gets older, and we have to spend less time preventing him from electrocuting himself.
Yep.
And can spend more time playing video games and watching movies and playing board games and stuff. I think it's definitely going to get easier in that sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the past couple weeks at least, or the past week where my studio's been closed for the holidays, and we're preparing for a move, and her job has ended, so she's home all time. Like we've definitely been able to rekindle that, where we can get him to bed between 9 and 10 at night. And then we've got 2 hours that we can stay up and talk or do a project side by side or watch a movie or play a video game. And then we've got the ability to sleep in as late as he does in the morning. So,
yep. How late is that, out of curiosity?
He's been sleeping in like 8:20ish.
Oh, okay.
So, we go to bed a little bit after midnight. We get very close to 8 hours sleep.
Nice, nice.
So it's definitely been good the past couple of weeks, and we took that time. We actually sat down and played through start to finish Scapegoat 2.
Nice.
So that's fun.
Very
but
cool.
yeah,
Very cool.
I definitely made a concerted effort, and so far this year, or I guess it's the end of the year, so through 2016, I was able to attempt to play a total of 23 games.
Nice.
I think
very nice.
20 of which I actually played start to finish, and I don't know, so 19 of them I played start to finish, and 4 of them I gave up on because I wasn't having fun.
Right. So I used to keep as detailed of records as you. I kind of started to hate doing so at one point. I don't know. I didn't like seeing certain things, I guess, if that makes sense. Like I always want to finish every game. So if I have a half-finished game, it always bothers me, which is dumb, right? But it's just some compulsive thing of mine. So I kind of forget about them, maybe. I don't want to write that down. So...
Well, for me, I keep 3 lists, right? I keep one list that is all of the games I own and have never played.
Mm-hmm.
And then I keep a list of all the games that I feel were a waste of my time.
Okay.
And then I keep a list of the stuff that I played through to completion.
I have list 1 and 3, so not this second list.
Yeah.
Not the waste of time list.
For me, I have a spending problem. I buy way too many games, and so I feel like in a way having that list of bad games helps me a little bit, because when I see what I feel is wasted money, I'm more likely to think twice before I buy the next game.
Don't want to waste that $3, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You always remind me of this guy I work with that, like, will mull over the idea of like a $10 purchase for like literally like weeks and weeks, and it's like, man, you make six figures, just buy the damn thing. Like, you're wasting more of your personal time. Like if you consider the value of your own time, like just buy it, right?
Yeah.
But
you know what's hilarious?
Right?
There's a game this year. I don't remember if it's still on my to buy lists or not. Like I have like a Steam wish list, and then I keep this like a similar list on is there any deal?
Yeah.
There was a game this year that I had put on my wish list. There was like a Steam sale where you got trading cards for like going through the recommendations and deciding whether or not you wanted it on your wish list.
Right.
So it ended up on my wish list, and then it went on sale, but it went on sale as part of a bundle.
Okay.
So if I had have paid, I think it was something stupid like $3 for the bundle, then I would have ended up with this one game that I was interested in, but I would have also ended up with like 10 games I wasn't interested in.
So that put you off?
So simply because I would have had my backlog grow by these extra games I had no interest in, I didn't buy the game.
Can't you own a game and not put it on your list?
I feel like I can't.
That's funny. That's where we differ, because I make massive amount of game purchases and then like line them up and try them out a little bit and play them with my friends, but they never make any of my lists. That's kind of where, so I mean, I just have my wall actually right now lined with games. I'm in the middle of reorganizing my game room and making it somewhat usable as opposed to completely unusable. It's basically like a storage room right now. But anyway, so I've been laying out all my games, and it's kind of amazing to look at them and just see the volume of plastic like that I've accumulated over the years. But like they're not really on lists or anything.
Yeah.
At the same time, I mean, coming back to the backlog topic, I guess. I made this somewhat ambitious plan some time ago to just beat every single Famicom game. I mean, some of them repeat, or they're not really beatable.
So, isn't there?
700-ish, yeah. And I mean, some of them are like one day, some of them are longer, but it's actually, for the most part, a doable goal. You might be torturing yourself with certain titles, but I mean, I think I'd be willing to give up on certain titles. The ones that are like unbeatable unless you do whatever, and these really possible games. But for the most part, just to go through the whole library and kind of have fun with this idea. So I don't know if that's like a backlog of 700 games or if it's just this idea I have, but I have been going through them, and I've been going through them chronologically, which is especially ridiculous, but fun. Just one of my, I don't know, silly little side projects I have.
Did you ever see Gaming CX, Game Center CX?
Yes, I have.
That's kind of a neat idea where they like force him to play through
all
games,
these, like, ridiculous games,
which that was kind of what inspired me to even start having a list of things to play.
Really?
Because I realized that like I wasn't playing a lot of the games, and I don't know. I feel like games are. I think you and I play games very differently in where you enjoy having a bunch of stuff that you just pick up and will fiddle with for a few minutes and then put it away. I feel almost like games are the same as movies or books, where you should take it from start to finish.
I feel the same kind of. Like what I was saying earlier about hating having unfinished games. I don't like if there's an RPG and I play 5 hours or 10 hours, I just have to finish it even if I start hating it. But I think it comes down more to maybe ownership has a different meaning, I guess. Maybe it has to do with the way I'm kind of a collector in a way. So, I mean, if I buy some game, even if I know in all likelihood I may never play it, it doesn't really bother me, or it doesn't mean anything to me. I can just put it on the shelf. I mean, again, a lot of these purchases are like $1, $2, $5, $10 games, right? Yeah. But where it sounds like for you, a purchase means something different. It's not just something to set on your shelf. It's like you have to have that in your list, or it's a meaningless thing, which I understand, again, because why waste money on something you're never going to touch, right?
Yeah, that's part of it. It probably started to a small degree with me moving to Australia, and it's like I had to start selling stuff,
right?
And so it's like, what do I want to sell and what do I want to keep? And if I've got to keep my number of possessions down low, am I going to actually buy something new, or is it something I can do without? And so even though most of what I'm buying now is digital, I still kind of think the same way. It's like if I'm not going to play it, what's the point of buying it?
Right.
And so with a bundle, totally it makes sense to just discard the stuff that you know you're not buying those 9 games. You're buying that one game for cheaper than it is normally.
Right.
But I still feel like so I mentioned that we had been playing Scapegoat too. Like that's a game that I had no interest in whatsoever. I got that as part of a bundle, but I kept it on my list. And then when Andrea and I decided that we were going to play something together, I started going through my list and was like, okay, well, Andrea's not a big time gamer. What's a game that we can play together?
Right.
And so I've now got a to-do list of stuff for us to play together, and that happened to be one of them. And it looked as though it was going to be a 3-hour game, so I was like, okay, this is low investment. Andrea might like it. Let's try it. And it ended up being one of my favorite games of the year that I played. So
Very nice. Very nice.
So I don't know. I feel like when you do have those bundles, I still need to add it into the playlist, even if it's not one that I'm realistically ever going to play. And I feel like just the act of having to type in all those things into my list and research how long it's going to take is like, it helps me realize that one game that I wanted to buy wasn't even that important to me.
Very interesting. So 2 things. First of all, I mean, for me, just kind of having my wall lined with games that I don't have on some list somewhere, where you have a list and that's what you consult when it comes time to, say, play games with your wife or something. For me, it's like I walk up to the wall and scan the list of games.
Yeah.
I don't really acquire a lot of games I haven't heard of, and if I do, I generally look them up and figure them out and maybe give them a try and so on. So I mean, I'm familiar with everything I have. So it's not just like, say, being at an actual library where you don't know every book or something. But I guess my point is that that's kind of like where you build lists, I build collections, kind of, and then that's where I would consult the collection to see a fun game to play. Or if like friends are over, it's like, what game can we play? How about this one? They're in alphabetical order. They're not in like priority order, but.
Mine starts in my big master list. Is in alphabetical order.
Right.
I should share my my spreadsheets or something. They're ridiculously in depth.
Right. So question for you.
Yeah.
I guess, my question would be, is it fun? Like, is it fun to do that? Like, you're obviously continuing to do it, but do you think continuing to build these lists kind of makes the whole, like, just gaming in general funner for you, or do you feel like it is its own separate activity that is fun? Or like, I would feel like kind of maybe you're adding a bit of a chore to the whole gaming thing. Yeah.
To an extent, I'm giving myself a chore, but I don't know. Yeah, I do find it fun. I try not to do things that aren't fun.
Okay.
So yeah, oddly enough, having this thing that's organized, I don't know, it gives me some sort of a sense of order, and it gives me some sort of a sense of what to look forward to.
Right.
But
I mean,
and
okay.
I think human nature, we enjoy when things get accomplished. Like
right.
like when you think about it, the average video game in itself is a to-do list. You look at an RPG,
yes.
and it's like, go to this place and talk to this person, and you do it, and then you're rewarded with the next part of the story, or collect this Pokemon or whatever. So I kind of see video games as a whole as a to-do list, and when you're doing game design and stuff, it's kind of important to do that, because every time you mark something off, you get your little hit of dopamine. Right. So in a way, I'm getting that by gamifying playing video games as well.
Right. I guess my take on that, if I may interject, I do a similar thing for movies, where I have this big complicated list, and I detail all this stuff, when I saw it, my impression of it when I saw the movie, and then like what year it came out, what genre it was, whether it was color or black and white or whatever, animated, whatever. And then I just found, like, in a way, I guess I'm gamifying watching movies, but it's like, like I was starting to get really weird things happening where it's like I'd look at, say, the kind of the histogram of years over which I watched films, and then it'd be
Yeah.
like there's one year where I haven't really seen any, so it's like, oh,
Yeah.
I have to pump that year up, so I'd add a bunch
Yeah.
of movies from that year to my list, and then like I'd be like, I've seen whatever, right? It's like I've seen lots of action movies from Hong Kong, but none from Italy. I should add one of those. It's just like,
Yeah.
in a way, it's I guess fun, but in a way, it's like I just like instead of watching the movies I want to watch, I let this compulsive list making
Well,
guide my
yeah.
behavior somewhat.
Yeah, I definitely get that, and I try not to let it be a compulsion.
Right.
I mean, to a certain extent, it obviously is, by considering
God,
I have
well.
this list in the first place. But
These 4 lists,
but
that you
but
apply
I'm
in
not
different
I'm not
circumstances.
adamant that I stick to it.
Right.
So, like, I made a list. Let me see if I think the only place I put it was on Reddit. I made a list last year. I like listed all the games I owned, and I just asked people on Reddit to help me prioritize what games I should play. And they actually helped me come up with a to-do list.
Okay.
And so the list that I came up with at the end of 2015 was Dust: An Elysian Tale, Amnesia: The Dark Descent, Leisure Suit Larry, one of them, I forget which one, Bastion, Suikoden, Crisis 2, Sims 2, Valkyria Chronicles, Dead Space, Soft Porn Adventure, Brutal Legend, another one of the Leisure Suit Larry games, Gone Home, and Psychonauts.
That's your list for this coming year?
So that was my to-do list for 2016, and so I ended up actually only playing 30% of the games on that list.
30% is quite impressive for a list you crafted out of like other people's recommendations on the internet, I think.
Yeah. So I had that list. I played 30% of those, and then I ended up buying a bunch of others and feeling like not in the mood to play certain ones, so I prioritized those ones instead. So my list is organic, and I allow it to change. I don't just lock it in and say, okay, I'm not playing anything else until I play these. Like,
Right.
I'll start playing them, and then I'll be like, okay, you know what, I actually don't want to play Crisis 2. I'm going to start playing Total War Shogun to Fall of the Samurai instead.
Mm-hmm.
Because, a real-time strategy is significantly different than a first-person shooter, and if you just don't feel like playing it, why force yourself to?
Right. Very interesting. Another question for you then. Another quick question. I mean, I see some similarities in the way we approach this, of course. Like, I have my own list. I also, like, I don't... Like, sometimes I'll look at the next game on the list and be like, maybe I'll play this other game. Or, like, maybe like, I know I'm going to have this spare day on the weekend. And I look at the next game on my list and it's an RPG or something. But the game right under it is a game that's maybe going to take 5 hours. So I say,
exactly.
there's a lot of that goes on. I guess a question for you, I'm just wondering, like, you also keep a list of the games you've finished.
Mm-hmm.
Do you do anything with that? Like, are you going to maybe look at writing reviews for these some days? Or, do you ever consult that again? Do you care? Is there any meaning to keep such a list?
Yeah, there's probably not a huge need to it.
Just a compulsion? Look at the list and be like, I beat all these.
I have, like, this fantasy that at some point in the future I'm going to have completed all my list and maybe I'll want to replay some of them. So I don't know if I maintain a record of what's there, or maybe, it helps me to remember what I did actually play. Like, if I played through 20 games in a year, I may have completely forgotten about Bastion, but then I take a quick look at the list. I'm like, oh yeah, that was a good game. I would totally recommend that to someone.
Right. Fair. Do you do any sort of... So something I do with both games and movies to some extent, more so movies, but games, like, exactly what I was just describing, I guess, where I kind of keep, I guess, almost stats. So if I can see, like, I haven't played any of some certain genre, maybe I'll kind of look at my list and move some of those games up on the list. Just, I guess, in the interest of keeping broad, experience, or, like, whatever, right? Something like that. Do you do anything like that with your list, or is it more like,
totally.
this looks
Like,
fun?
I have a huge variety of games, and so I could very easily say, okay, 2017 is the year of the RPG, and I could try to play nothing except RPGs.
Sure.
but I'm probably gonna feel drained and burned out if I do that, right? Like, I don't I don't necessarily want to have the same experience over and over and over.
Of course, yeah.
So yeah, I've totally like at the end of 2016, I sat down and tried to figure out, okay, what games am I going to play in 2017? Because I've got a huge collection, and so I look at the number of hours I was able to play in 2016, and I try to figure out, okay, so what sort of stuff can I fit into that budget of hours? And what? So I've tried to get stuff from the different years that I've purchased games, stuff that are different categories, stuff that are different time lengths. So I have a list that I'm excited to play.
Cool,
and
cool.
I've actually tried to prioritize more portable games this year, since I'm going to be on a bus more often, and I've actually bought an exercise bike.
Oh, nice.
So I figure I can use that at home and play through like Fire Emblem on that in the evenings or something. And
Good luck.
I still get to have my enjoyment of a video game while burning more calories than if I were to just literally sit there and do nothing but play the video game.
Have you tried that before?
Yeah, exercise bikes are pretty much the only thing that I can accomplish that on. If I'm on a treadmill, or an elliptical,
There's no
or
way on a
something,
treadmill,
there's
yeah.
just no way. You're bouncing around too much. I can't read or anything. I can do an audiobook.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I've got like a recumbent bike, so you're kind of like sitting with your legs extended in front of you more.
Right.
So there's a lot less swaying back and forth as you do it.
Yeah, I've had a hard time, I guess, with games. Like, I'm impressed that you can. So I can watch a movie on an exercise bike, but that's because my hands are not involved in the process. When it comes to a game, it's like, I feel like I'm swaying a lot more.
Well, that's what I'm saying with this style of bike. It does free up my hands.
Right, but okay. I guess I'd have to. I trust you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It depends on what it is. Like, I've got Fire Emblem and I've got Suikoden 2 that I'll be playing while doing that. And if you're doing an RPG, when you're doing the turn-based battles, there's not a whole lot of thought process that goes into that. There's not a whole lot that goes into walking around on the world map from point A to point B. I
got you. I used to exercise a lot while playing Final Fantasy VIII because there was so much time.
Yeah,
where just you're not doing anything, but you go into a battle, everyone does a GF summon or whatever, and it's like whatever, like 3 solid minutes of you not doing anything except watching animations play for the 100 billionth time. It's like, yeah,
but there would definitely be no way you could concentrate on like Super Meat Boy.
Yeah, that's what I had in mind when you first mentioned the bike, I guess. Right. We're coming up on half an hour. Why don't we review your favorite games of the year? Sounds like you've played a significantly larger amount than I.
Yeah.
What are your top 3? What and why?
Top 3. I played. So my third favorite. Let me double check this. Because I've got everything listed and kind of organized, but.
Sure.
Yeah. So I'd say. One of my favorites was Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons.
Okay.
I'd say that's probably my third favorite, and I picked that one up simply because it was one of the games I already owned that is advertised as being playable in Japanese, and I figured, okay, I'm trying to learn Japanese, let's multitask and try to play a game at the same time. And there's no dialogue in the actual game, so it was only the menus that I had to worry about translating. Which I would not recommend, because whoever localized that to Japanese did a foul job.
You should have known.
Coming from someone who knew no Japanese and was going through the process of translating it, even I was able to tell it was bad. Like they did stuff like calling the characters like little brother and big brother.
Having not played the game, should they not be called that?
Well, it was like in English, sure, you call them that, but in Japanese, like, they were using the Kana to literally call them Big Brother.
like he's the government or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So little things like that. Don't play it in Japanese, but it's a really solid game. It was
Cool.
fairly short. The art style was great. There's some nice puzzles to solve, and it was fun.
Cool.
I definitely recommend that.
Okay.
Then the next one I got around to was during my house hunting trip. I bought Parasite Eve on the PlayStation Network for like $3 and was able to play that on my PSP almost exclusively while flying back and forth to Montreal.
Classic, yeah.
And that's a game that I felt like I should have played back when it was released, and I just didn't because Final Fantasy 7 and 8 and Brave Fencer Musashi and all this other stuff was coming out at the same time, and I just didn't play it. But I played it now, and it holds up remarkably well.
Even with those like pixelated graphics?
Well, maybe because I'm playing it on the PSP, which is a nice tiny screen.
Yeah.
But yeah, those backgrounds and stuff look great. So I would say 100% that's a game that is worth playing even today.
And that's your number 2?
That's my number 2. And then I think number 1 was Total War Shogun 2, Fall of the Samurai.
Really? Cool.
And that was a really solid game. It's been a long time since I've played any sort of Civilization or real-time strategy thing, so that worked very well for me this year.
Yeah, I like the game a lot, actually. I remember when the first one came out, like the very first Total War game was Shogun Total War, and it was a lot of fun. And so I had played that at the time and enjoyed it a lot, and then I kind of left the series for a long time, and I picked up the same game, the Shogun 2 Total War, this year. And I didn't play it to completion. In fact, I only probably put maybe a few hours into it, but I did very much enjoy it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how about you? Do you have a top 3?
I do. I will skip through it here. So, yeah, all my games are older games. I just haven't gotten... it goes back to time, of course. I mean, not to say there's no newer games that are short, but I mean, generally there's a lot of Famicom games you can beat in a day. So, game number 3 on my list would have to be Metroid Fusion. I know you were not a huge fan. I actually liked it. I didn't like it as much as Super Metroid or Metroid 2, which I actually am a huge fan of Metroid 2 and Super Metroid, I guess. But Metroid 2
that was my thing. Is it was good. I just felt like it was the weakest of the Metroids.
Fair.
It
guess.
Was fun.
Yeah. Well, for me, I mean, I was ready for exactly this kind of game. Like I just played 1, 2, 3, and 1 is an older game, of course. It has its own thing. But 2 and 3 are very, very similar. And this is similar again, but it is kind of a different take, I guess, on that Metroid-style game where you have, the computer constantly talking to you, and it's the story is a lot more woven into what is happening at each step, and then, like, the idea of being chased by this clone of yourself and whatever else. And then even just, I guess, I don't know, the challenge... Like a lot of the bosses were actually kind of challenging at times. Versus, I didn't really feel that so much from the previous Metroid games.
Did you ever play Zero Mission?
Zero Mission is that's the remake of the original. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I have not.
You should.
It's on my list. It's like
it handles,
2 down, I think.
It handles the same as Fusion with like the sense of gravity and stuff.
Okay.
So then it's the original Metroid, but then there's like an extra section tagged on at the end.
Cool.
And it's really solid.
Cool. Okay. Well, I'll let you know how I feel when I get to it. One thing I didn't like about Fusion actually was the controls were a little irky. I don't know, the jump. You'd often come out of the spin jump. So you'd be spinning and then suddenly be in a squatting position, and it's in a place where you need to be spinning. I don't know. It was kind of a mess. But for the most part, I liked it. Number 2 on the list. So my next 2 are both Famicom games. Speaking of being able to beat something in a day. But Powerblade. I don't know if you've played it.
I know the name.
Lots of fun. So you're this... I don't know what the story is. I forget. You're basically trying to find these computer terminals. There's 6 stages. You're trying to unlock these 6 computer terminals to, like, I don't know. I don't even remember. It was closer to the start of the year I beat it. But you have to like basically it's kind of like Mega Man, I guess, in that at the start you can pick which level, so you can do the stages in any order. Then when you go through the stage, it's like you're searching for this computer terminal to unlock, and just the controls and the gameplay. It's like it's a really really solid platformer for the original Nintendo.
Nice.
And you can save, so if you beat 3 of the stages in whatever order, then you save, and so you can beat it over a few days. It's not one of those games that forces you to do it all in one session like Mega Man 1. Just really, that's it, I guess. A solid platformer, lots of fun. All my games here are platformers, actually. Next is the original Castlevania 3, which I had beaten long ago, but I decided to take another stab at. I don't know if you've played it or beaten it.
I've played it, but I never got very far in it. I got Grant, and then never really went any further.
Honestly, I'd say it's one of my favorite games ever. I mean, I wouldn't make the argument that it's one of the best ever, but maybe just one of my favorites, if that makes sense. Like it's just I love its style. I love the music. I love the action. I love the challenge. It's one of those games where like you're playing the level whatever for the 5th time, and you know. Your heart is pumping, your blood is pumping, your heart is beating, the music's super awesome, and you're like just at the end of the level and stuff's flying everywhere and you manage to beat it, and you're like, oh, it's got a lot of that. And I just liked the spin they put on it compared to previous Castlevanias with the character selection and the different paths. And especially the Japanese cartridge has the special sound chip. So I'm a huge geek when it comes to like old technology, I guess, but like a lot of the expansion chips on the old Nintendo really fascinate me, and that sound chip is just awesome. You just get those really, cool low bass sounds and stuff. It's a lot of fun. So that was my number one this year.
Nice. All right. Well, you should send me the full list of what you played, and we can put those both up with the on the website next to the podcast.
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
Cool.
Well, I think that's it for our time.
Yeah, time is up. You're going to get kicked out.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
All right. Well,
all right.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. I will surely be talking to you, but good luck with your move.
Yeah.
And
it'll be exciting to start from scratch yet again.
Yep. Well, that's the theme we're going with, right?
Yeah.
All right.
All right, cool. Well,
cheers,
talk to you later.
Absolutely. Take care.
Bye.